travelling escort. And a notice, like everybody has to endure, just married.
Like the wedding, Prince Charles and Princess Diana's honeymoon was fitting for a future king and queen, and the crowds and the media loved every minute of it.
The Egyptian president was having dinner with the prince and princess. The royal barge collected Mr. and Mrs. Sadat. While they sat down to dinner, a medley of very British tunes floated out over the Suez Canal. After due ceremony, with the prince and princess on deck to say goodbye to their guests, the Sadats departed from this officially quiet, private engagement with every ship's siren at full blast.
The VC-10 came in just 30 seconds ahead of schedule after its 6-hour flight from the Red Sea to the rather grey and chilly Scottish afternoon.
As the royal couple continued their honeymoon at Balmoral, the fairy tale marriage appeared to have got off to a fairy tale start. But in private, Princess Diana was still feeling stressed, and there were already problems emerging. As the royal couple paraded and posed for the cameras, the press could never have guessed that behind the smiles, Princess Diana was having a pretty miserable time. This is how she later described it.
I think she felt trapped. I think she was very happy to be the Princess of Wales. I think she'd achieved that. That was terrific. But I think she felt absolutely alienated. All her girlfriends, she'd left them. She didn't have much to do with them. I think almost immediately she became incredibly needy, Diana. Who can blame her?
How are you enjoying married life?
Highly recommend.
Before the wedding, she started to suffer from bulimia nervosa, this eating disorder, where she binged and vomited on food.
Have you cooked a breakfast yet?
I gave you breakfast.
In developing bulimia, Diana was following her oldest sister, Sarah, who'd also had a difficult personal history.
Sarah, at the age of 18, was an alcoholic. She was drinking a bottle of vodka a day at her school, Westheath. She was completely out of control. She became very anorexic. She went down to about 5 stone 8, and she had huge problems.
Diana, you can see that before the wedding, she was this rosy-cheeked young girl, very kind of English in that pear-shaped way. And then within a matter of days after the wedding, on the honeymoon, you can see the pictures of her just looking gaunt, her face and head basically covered by a halo of blonde hair. And she lost weight very rapidly after the wedding.
Prince Charles was already becoming aware of his wife's bulimia and apparently tried to help in vain.
I do know that he tried to get help to her up at Balmoral. In the second part of the honeymoon, she rejected it and said no, she didn't need any help.
Soon after the honeymoon, Princess Diana was back in London and became a client of the famous fashion designer Bruce Oldfield.
What was very interesting was what a thin young girl she was. Because, 1 month before the wedding, she'd been quite ample, big bosom, rosy-cheeked. 1 month later, coming down from Balmoral, she was quite slim. She was, the bust was smaller, the face was thinner. She was quite different. Quite a metamorphosis, even in just a short period of time. We all noticed that.
Princess Diana's unhappiness was to continue. Within 3 months, she fell pregnant, and she began to suffer from morning sickness. And then on top of that, she had to deal with an extremely demanding public.
Not only did she have a new marriage to contend with, within just a few months of being married to Prince Charles, she was pregnant. And it was a difficult pregnancy. She suffered badly from morning sickness. And at the same time, she then had to undertake public engagements for the first time. And her first ever trip to Wales, you could see the fear on her face as she stepped out of the car and then walks through the crowds, shaking hands and all smiles. But here she was, suffering from morning sickness, terrified, and the world wanted to, as it were, devour her.
I am extremely grateful to you, Lord Mayor, and to the City Council, and to the City of Cardiff, for granting me the freedom of the city. I realise it is a very great honour, and I am most grateful. I would like to try to express my thanks to you in Welsh, also. Mein blessed Carl Dod e Gymru, hoffwn ddod eto yn fuan. Diolch yn fawr.
Princess Diana later described that Welsh trip in these words. Diana later told Andrew Morton she was so unhappy in this period that she tried to commit suicide a number of times.
The royal family are not a touchy-feely family, and they found it very difficult to cope with this girl who was crying, who was leaving the table to be sick, who was continually agitated. And there were several occasions where she made these kind of half-hearted suicide attempts. Probably the most famous is when she threw herself down the stairs at Sandringham while she was pregnant with Prince William. Diana told me that when she landed a heap on the bottom, Prince Charles just turned on his heels and went off hunting because he was just exasperated with her.
It would be a mistake, however, to think that everything in the early years of the royal marriage was all gloom and doom. It seems clear that at least early on, Prince Charles was genuinely attracted to Diana, and there were certainly many happy moments.
At that time, everybody was saying, good luck, and I hope everything goes well, and how lucky you are to be engaged to such a lovely lady. And my goodness, I was lucky enough to marry her.
And I think that he and Diana got on all right. And in fact, people have told me in the early years they were, really quite lovey-dovey, holding hands and giggling and snuggling up.
Even when they went on honeymoon, there are photographs of him with his hand on her bottom. When they went out on engagement together, he couldn't keep his hands off her. So yeah, they were genuinely in love with each other.